Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. There we go. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dyra. Okay. So I've tried to zoom in on the whiteboard. I'm admitting more of your classmates now, so I'm going to hold off on my little good morning message. Be right with you. Everyone, I'm going to put this classroom in PowerPoint mode to try to reduce the glare on the screen. Okay, so what I've tried to do here is to zoom in on the whiteboard, at least the plan for today. I'm not sure how well you can see that or not. Frankly, I'm disappointed because it doesn't look like you can see it very well. But the first thing that I'd like you to do while I'm waiting for your classmates to join is to read. So please take out your House on Mango Street and go ahead and pick up wherever you left off last. It's really important that we continue to make progress reading this book because you've got a rough draft to write for next week. So we're going to be taking some steps today to help you with that. And you'll have activities, exercises posted to the course website that will help you continue to make more progress throughout the week. So please read The House on Mango Street now. And that'll be our way of getting started. Good morning, Ileana.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, good. Thank you, Dyra. I'm so glad to see that you can see the board. Ileana, can you see the board okay?
I can, yes.
All right. Then my view is probably not as good as yours. Okay, Ileana, I'm going to make you a co-host. And I think most of the students who are going to be attending on Zoom are here. There might be a few more coming up. Okay, Ileana, so if you could watch for students who are coming in, please admit them in. I would appreciate that. I'm going to get back to setting things up here. Okay, everyone, I'm trying to get the owl to take a look back at me again. There we go. I think it's back to autofocus. Okay, excellent. All right, welcome to week 4. That is the time of the semester and the module that you should be looking at. For this week, we are going to be learning how to write a new paragraph style, okay? Or I should say a different kind of paragraph for your paper. So the mini essay, which you all had to do for Friday, right? And I know that there are several that have not been submitted yet, okay? I encourage you, get on that right away because you want to get feedback from me. Yeah.
Can you check who's submitted their essay?
Yes, I can definitely do that. Why don't I do that during the break? It's Angel, right? Do you want to confirm that you see it? Okay, so one of the students in class, Angel, asked a really good question, right? Can I confirm? While yes, I can confirm whether you've done it or not, I think it's really important that you are able to see for yourself, okay? So why don't you all log into Canvas right now, okay? And try to pull up your assignment link. What you go to the same assignment link that it was posted, right? So that was the links were posted to the week 3 module. Okay. When you go in, and especially when you select the turn it in link, okay, you should be able to see a percentage next to your name, okay, next to the file that you submitted. Okay. If you cannot see a percentage next to it, please let me know because that there might be a setting that I have to change. Okay. Why don't we let's do that now. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to go to our homepage for this week. And I usually try to include a couple of links on the homepage. One is to the current module, and the other is to the previous module. So mini essay assignment link is in week 3. I am going to put this in student view right now. Okay, so a couple of places that I would imagine you would be able to see it. The first, the place that we should all be able to check it out should be right here where it says mini essay 1 turn it in link. Okay, that's the same area where you should have submitted it. It's on this screen here where you should see your submission. That's where you should have loaded it, selecting that button right there. The other way that you should be able to see it is if you go into grades, okay? If you go into grades, it should show whether you have submitted it or not for mini essay 1, okay? And if you select it, especially if there's an area that's hyperlinked and that allows you to check out detail, then from there, you should be able to see what percentage, okay? Now, that percentage is not a grade percentage. I have not graded them yet. I'm gonna start doing that today. Should be continuing throughout this week. That's the Turnitin originality report resemblance rate. So we talked about this a little last week. That allows me to kind of see how much does your paper resemble other papers that exist online, right? Not just have been submitted, turned in. Okay. Angel, were you able to find anything?
Yeah.
Good. Did you get confirmation that you submitted it?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Excellent. Angeli, did you turn it in?
Yeah.
Good. Did you receive, when you turned it in, a confirmation page?
What do you mean by confirmation?
So when you submit your assignment to those links, there should be a window that pops up that, says something like, thank you for your submission, right? It should give you a timestamp. I always recommend that you take a screenshot of those confirmation pages, okay, and save those. Because sometimes stuff happens, right? Sometimes, you think you've submitted it, I look and I'm like, well, I guess you don't get a grade for it. And then you wonder maybe like weeks later, hey, professor, have you graded this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I graded that. And you're like, well, I haven't received a grade yet. And then I look and I'm like, well, I don't see it turned in. Okay. But if you have that timestamp, right, that's a way to help you verify that you did your job, right? So I think that's a good practice, not just for this class, but for any class, right? Just take a screenshot. And as soon as you get a grade, go delete the screenshot. You don't have to keep it forever, right? You just need it to kind of give you some evidence, right? Hey, I did what I was supposed to do. You know, and look, if you're always uncertain, I appreciate prepared students. I appreciate all of you, right? But what I really value and what I want to encourage is that you're checking up and showing assertiveness, right? Email me if you're uncertain. Hey, professor, I did this. I didn't receive the confirmation email because my computer crapped out on me, right? It just got tired and died, or I got distracted. Can you see it? I'll go and I'll check for you. I'll provide that confirmation, okay? I just want to make sure you can also do it yourself, so you're not dependent on me, you know, getting back to you right away. Okay, so the whole point of where I was going with this is your mini essay was a body paragraph, okay? We have to learn how to write introductions, and we have to learn how to write conclusions too, okay? But some of us get stuck writing intros, and I think the best place to start, like actually beginning the paper, is with your body, okay? You start, just make one claim. Can you prove one claim? Don't worry about making like this big thesis, okay? That's for the very early stages. Now we're getting a little further. You've got some practice with the mini essay. So this week though, we do have to worry about how do we write an introduction, okay? That's a little bit of a different question from when we write the introduction, but it's more, I'm focused on how. What are the parts, okay? What should be present? It was brought up in first week, having a good hook is something important. To some extent, I agree with that. You know, hooks sometimes are only about style, okay? Style can matter with writing, right? We want to be engaging, but substance matters over style, okay? A bunch of flashy words, okay, or a clever, you know, question is not enough to substitute for a well-developed argument, okay? And what I want is both substance and style to meet each other, okay? So we have to go about the process of knowing what do we think and what is the big question we are trying to answer for this paper here, okay? And that's just a life skill, okay, for you, whatever you're doing, right? It's staying focused on what is the problem I'm trying to solve here, all right? We deal with this at home with our families. We deal with this in the work setting, okay? Whatever our work is, right? Problem solving is something we run into all the time, okay? And what I want to do is bring that to our papers, okay? And so we're going to practice, you know, in this common space with our book, okay? This is something we're all reading, okay? This is something we can share common ground with, okay? So I want you to start thinking of your introductions in terms of problem, right? What is the problem we're trying to solve here? And you'll look at my PowerPoint about writing the problem, about writing the introduction. If we have time, I'll shoot through it with you. But this is the way we're going to start. I want you to write a reflection right now. Okay, and we're going to take this issue of the problem and we're going to return it to Esperanza. Okay, what is it that prevents her from getting what she wants? Okay, remember last week we brainstormed, what does she want, right? And I said in a story, you need conflict. If she gets what she wants right away, story's over, you know, goodbye. Or this was boring, I don't want to watch this, right? So, you know, a writer, especially when they're trying to tease out certain ideas, an artist, when they're trying to explore certain problems, okay, they need to figure out, well, what are the conflicts that we have, right? So what I would suggest, take out your list of the things you thought Esperanza wanted, okay, wherever that list is, okay? And if you don't have it with you, that's okay, do a quick brainstorm. What are some things that you remember us talking about last week? What are some things that you remember her wanting? And then I want you to write, okay, next to that, All right, what is preventing her from getting those things? Okay, so that is the little reflection prompt I have for you for right now. Please go ahead and get started. I'm going to type that into the chat. I would like you to take 5 minutes right now. I will set the timer to just start drafting your ideas. What prevents Esperanza from getting what she wants? Please do not edit yourself right now. You are not turning this into me at the moment, okay? Just write freely, go. What is preventing her from getting what she wants? Anyone at home on Zoom have any questions about this? Feel free to type them into the chat or unmute yourself. Anyone in the classroom?
Oh, sorry.
Angelia?
So it's what Esperanza wants and what was the other one?
What is preventing her
Oh,
from getting those things? I'll write that up on the whiteboard for us here in class. Type it into the chat. Okay, everyone, I'm going to take attendance right now. Please unmute yourself and let me know that you're here once your name is called. Luis. There you are, Luis. Ryan. Ryan Campos.
Here.
Thank you, Ryan. Emily.
Here.
Great, good morning. Brandon.
Here.
Great, good morning. Pedro. Okay. Alejandro.
Good morning, Professor.
Okay. Angel. Jasmine.
Here.
Good morning. Christopher. Christopher. Okay. Christopher, Angeline. Gyra,
Here.
thank you. Richard. Richard. Okay. Stephanie,
Here.
thank you. Gladys,
Here.
great, thank you. Joel, I know you logged in. Melissa,
Here.
good morning, thank you. Consuelo. Consuelo. Nope, all right. Elira.
Here.
Maria.
Here.
Maria, thank you. And Ruben.
Here.
Great. Okay, did I miss anyone? I think that's it. Okay, everyone, we got about another minute or so to finish up our reflections. Okay, so now I'm gonna open up this question to the class, right? There are lots of things that can be getting in the way of what Esperanza wants. What are some things that you notice? This is to those of you who are in person, and this is to those of you on Zoom. Feel free to unmute yourself, or remember, type it into the chat. What are some things that we should note that get in the way? Angeli?
What's called gender? Gender? No.
Gender role?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and yeah, don't worry about using the technical terms. Go ahead and so I'm gonna write gender role up there. Okay, so can you elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by this?
Well, it seems like in her house, women have like this kind of things and men have to do those kind of things.
Okay. So I would call that like a division of labor, right? Okay, there's something divided about This is what a woman is supposed to do, and this is what a man is supposed to do, okay? So we'll say rules for men and women. I think that is a really profound thing here, okay? Now, how many of you, give me a thumbs up if you think one of the obstacles that Esperanza faces that prevents her from getting what she wants has to do with what she's expected to do as a woman, right? Just let me know if you agree with that at home. And yeah, a few of you. Okay, others in the classroom, do we see that too possibly? Okay. Angeli, was there an example of this time where some expectation came up for Esperanza that you saw as blocking her?
I think it was her getting a job.
Her getting a job?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do that for now. I'll put it here. So. And we're not gonna, I would love to hear more, but that's what the paper's for, right? If that's what you want to pursue. Getting a job, okay?
Also, what
Yeah.
her grandma went through, she doesn't want that.
All right, so we have her grandmother's experience. Was it a great grandmother? I'm gonna write question there.
Well, she said she had a strong personality,
Mm-hmm.
but she couldn't do the things she wanted to do because she was forced to be married.
Okay. All right, so we've got gold here. All right, Angeli's pointed out something that is definitely debatable, right? We have some gender rules that are at work here based on the role of a man and a woman, right? Or you could say a boy and a girl, okay? And then, you know, she connected it to that experience where Esperanza was getting a job. She also connected it to Esperanza's reflections on her grandmother. So I want to take your examples and move away from the gender role thing, which we could pursue for sure, but just more focused on these two different kinds of examples here. This is really helpful for all of you at home and for all of you in the class too, because you know, a lot of this book is not just Esperanza's actions, right? But it's how she sees others, right? So we're gonna look at the prompt and we're gonna see more what you have to do. But sometimes you're gonna be able to look at what Esperanza does, what her actions are as a way to understand Esperanza. And sometimes we're gonna have to look at how Esperanza sees other people and how she responds to their experiences as a way of understanding Esperanza, right? So we can think of it as when we're gathering examples, we probably want some internal examples, right? Some direct examples, what Esperanza does, but we might also want to look for indirect examples, examples of what others do and see what Esperanza thinks about those things, okay? So that will help you expand all of the evidence you can look for when you're trying to understand Esperanza, right? You don't have to limit yourself to only things that she does, but we can think about directly what she does, and we can think about indirectly what she thinks about what others do, okay? Excellent, okay. So other things that we can look to, Gladys, you wrote that she, that herself, she kind of prevents herself from getting what it is that she would like. Gladys, can you help me understand that a little bit more? And then I'll get to Alejandro and what Daira said too. Hello, Gladys? Okay, we'll come back to Gladys. Alejandro, you had your hand up?
Yes, Professor.
Go for it.
Hey, so is it okay to mention something that prevents her? Or are we
Yes.
doing? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
please.
well, I think one thing that prevents her from taking certain actions is her attitude. And For example, when she tried out her job, she felt uncomfortable sitting in the lunchroom because of the men and people there. So after she was done in her lunch break and she took her following break, an older man approached her and he mentioned that it was his birthday and he reached for her and kissed her.
Hmm.
Another thing was when she was recommended like for the job, I think it was her aunt that recommended her and she
Yes.
was underage. So maybe she wasn't like fully with the idea, but her attitude just was preventing her from being able to, like stop certain things,
Okay.
influence.
You mean like she could have maybe stood up to her aunt and said, no, I don't want a job, or she could have stood up to that coworker and said, get your hands off me, stop grabbing my face.
Yeah, or like when she decided to pitch in for the bicycle, and
Hmm?
she knew that her sister wasn't gonna have any dibs on it, but she didn't want to mention anything to like make the other girls feel uncomfortable or her look like she wasn't gonna be part of the agreement.
All right, okay, I like that. I like that way of phrasing things, and the bike's a good example too. Yeah, there are different examples or moments in the story where Esperanza, that maybe she struggles with speaking up. Do you think, is that, okay, good, all right.
Yes. Lack of communication, right?
Yeah, exactly, struggles with speaking up. Yeah, this reminds me of what I asked you all to read in that first week of class, right? Before the discussion boards, okay? It is on being assertive, right? What do we call the communication when you don't say what it is that you are thinking or feel or what you need? Do you guys remember that? Anyone in class or at home? What do we call that communication style that does not share when the individual does not share what they think or feel or need or want? I know it's been a little bit, but this is also great. Alejandro, this is really good what you said because it's connecting us to something that we discussed earlier in the class, okay? It is being passive, okay? So when she doesn't say what she thinks, when she's uncomfortable with something and she lets it go, okay? That is, according to Leon Seltzer and other psychologists, right? That's a way of categorizing that as a passive style of communication, okay? So I'm gonna put a question mark there. Some of you, it looks like I'm trying to read your faces. Some of you are maybe trying to remember what were the different communication styles. Some of you might want to debate with that though, right? Maybe this isn't passive, or maybe it's unfair to characterize her entirely as passive, okay? But you know what, I think this is another good thing for us to point out here, right? And this brings me back to Angeli's thing too. Sometimes we don't always know the technical terms, right? Okay, but that's an opportunity for us to grow. Start with the language you do know, okay? You may not have known to call this gender roles, but we do say, rules. This is how a man's supposed to be. This is how a woman's supposed to be. And Esperanza struggles with that. Okay, good. That's a good starting point, okay? As you write and think more, you will come to the more technical words, right? Same thing, Alejandro, you started, right, with something that we can observe here. And in language we can all access, right? She struggles with speaking up. She doesn't say something sometimes, right? That's fine, start there, okay? And then we can move to, that's what we call passive communication, okay? We can get to the more technical terms once we have the language ourselves to define what something is, right? Then we can start to hook it up to other, what we call jargon, okay? Terms that are specific to a field, okay? So this is very unique to psychology and sociology, terms like passive, assertive, aggressive, right? We don't use them in the same way when we're just talking amongst each other, you know? Anyway, awesome, great suggestion. Let's see, Dyra, you said that her family's income prevents her from moving up in their social class. Okay. I think that's a great example there. Sorry, another thing that is a barrier, family income. Okay. So we can think about something concrete and material, right? She does not have the resources, okay? We can think about something cultural, right? Gender, right? This is how people interact in society, okay? Certain expectations, right? This is okay, this is not okay. But we can also think in terms of psychology, right? How she communicates, how she thinks, okay? These are all ways to look at certain obstacles, things that get in the way of her getting what she wants. Okay, other suggestions that we want to add up here? These are 3 really good examples of things that block her. But there are definitely others too.
Professor, and like about the situation where she wanted to eat at the canteen.
Yeah.
I think the nun or the principal didn't want to let her. So, and it was just because of the distance that she lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that was an obstacle, I think. But
yeah, right. So, okay, so like other people, right? Or like authorities, right? People in charge. Okay. And for those of you that can't see, all I wrote on the board here is other people and authorities, okay? But other people might not be authorities though, right? Like maybe her friends, Rachel and Rachel's sister. I can't think of her name right now. What's her name?
Lucy.
Nenny is her sister. Nenny gets in the way too, right? I mean, I think it was in your class where I remembered that poetic and sad image that Esperanza has of her sister, right? And how she feels, a balloon tethered to an anchor, right? That's I don't know, from me and my family values, I understand that feeling, but it's also like, don't talk that way about your family, right? There's a rule, there's a cultural thing right there, right? Don't talk that way about your sister, right? But that is something that we get a really clear view of from Esperanza. She struggles with that, right? And again, we can go back to what Angeli said, like I think in that same chapter, that she's talking about she can't play with her brothers or her brothers don't want to play with her. They don't want to be seen out in public playing with her, right? So all of these are excellent things to explore. And there are many others. There are many other ways of saying these things and other ideas that we can get to, okay? Yeah, Angeli.
For example, would you say like religious beliefs?
I can't think of any at the moment, but they could be an obstacle. What do you have in mind?
Well, the dad seems really religious. I will add that to gender roles.
Oh, and now we're getting really complex. Okay, but yes, yeah. I think that's great. Okay, so good. Whenever we're brainstorming, okay, I think it's a fun thing to do, but we start to categorize things, classify things, right? Especially when we have big, broad ideas like gender roles. God, that can mean so many different things, right? When we think about our society and how complex we are as people, just start listing all the things you do every day, right? And we can break this down into those different areas, those different like domains in our life, right? So religion is definitely one, okay? I'm trying to, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I know in Sandra Cisneros' other writings, Catholicism comes up as a block, okay, for sure, right? It is something that she explores and deals with. And I'm trying to remember, what did the dad do or say that made you think, oh, okay, religion is
Him talking about public school, like.
Oh,
And public.
that's a great example. Good. Well, that makes it intersect with education, right? Okay. Yeah, we don't want you to go to public school. You'll turn out an animal or something, right? there's a sense of superiority that he sees, right? That, you know, it's worth him sending his kids to Catholic school. And then that's a thesis though, that's a claim that he's making, right? You go to public school, you're gonna turn out bad. You go to Catholic school, I don't know, you'll be good somehow, right? But we could, if we wanted to, right, we could compare that to Esperanza's experience at Catholic school, right? You know, it wasn't, at least what I remember, some bits, you know, certainly Alejandro, what you pointed out with the nun, right? That wasn't a good experience, okay? And we can think about the other one who was like, is that the same moment where she's like, you live there? I think that's a different moment, right? There's the one who's checking her, like, can you get into the canteen?
But she also, the nun also asked her where she lives, and she had to form like some buildings in
Yes.
that part. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay, right, because she was having to prove to her that it wasn't a good idea for her to walk home, that she needed to be in the cafeteria, if I remember that right. Yeah, I don't remember, I think I remembered her crying, and then the nun felt bad, and
She let her stay that day.
she let her stay that day. Yes, exactly, right? So, I mean, that's, I don't know, I'd love to do an analysis and compare that to, you know, the dad's ideas about things, right? Not to say, you know, you don't cry anywhere, but anyway, that's a good example.
Of talking about what the nun's reaction,
Mhm.
that could also connect with the family income. Like her reaction to her income is like not great.
Yes, right, and you're saying how she was judging
Yeah.
where she lived. And that's a relation to her material conditions, right? The money that the family has. Yeah, right. So you guys, this is why we do this. You know, sometimes we have all these ideas in our head. We've got to see them on paper and start to explore, well, which ones light a spark for us, right? Okay, so this is a good exercise, but it all started with one question. Right? What prevents Esperanza from getting what she wants? Okay, sometimes asking one good question can really get you into that critical mindset, right? And to start to challenge and test certain ideas, okay? So let's take a look right now at the prompt for this paper, because I posted a question that you all need to answer in your very first full essay for this class. And I'll make sure to get it up there for you guys too. All right, so I'm going to go into the week 4 module. And I would like you to as well. All right, and the tab I would like you to select is the prompt. Essay 1 prompt, analysis of Esperanza's development. Please select that prompt now. I'd like you to read it. Okay, as you are reading this prompt, I want you to think about 2 questions. What do you understand? Okay, what do you need to do? And then the other question is, what is unclear? Okay, so I encourage you to write down 2 columns. One side, what do you need to do? The other side, what's unclear, right? Check your understanding with me right now while we're here together. I'm going to simulate what your notes should look like on the board behind me.
Professor,
Yes.
I'm sorry. On your question that you write, what do you need to do? Like I'm having a little hard time understanding because I'm reading the question on the prompt. How does the mindset change from the beginning of the story to the end?
Right.
And I'm having a hard time connecting that to the question that you're asking. Like, what do you need to do?
Right, so what I want you to do, one, that's excellent that you identified the central question your paper has to answer, okay? So everyone's essay has to deal with that question. How does Esperanza's mindset change from the beginning of the story to the end? What insight does she gain? So I want you to turn the question into action, okay? What do you have to go look for in order to answer that question? Okay, does that make sense?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Professor.
yes, good question. And Alejandro, to exemplify that, I wrote here, okay, first thing that you're gonna have to do, right, or the most important thing is answer that question, okay? That is your base. When you get lost, when you get stuck and you're like, I don't know what to say, come back to that question that's on the prompt, okay? How does she change? What is she like at the beginning? What is she like at the end, right? And as a result of that, what is this new idea that she has? That's what an insight is. Insight's just idea, right? But insight has this other association with it, that it's somehow a transformative idea, right? That it is somehow this big idea that's gonna change someone's life, okay? Now, we all bring our own experiences to reading. So yes, I know this is the house on Mango Street, but Professor Gardner's house on Mango Street is different from Angela's, and that's different from Angel's, and that's different from Luis's, okay? So we're gonna see things. Some of the stuff we'll share, but we might not see the same things right away, okay? So that's gonna cause you all to answer that question in a little bit of a different way, okay? And that's what makes it fun. We're exploring our ideas and I get to see, I'm not reading the same paper every time, okay? All right, so questions at home about the prompt or in the classroom, right? I guess this is the part that I wanna get to today for the last few minutes before we head out. Are there any things about this prompt at this moment that are unclear to you?
Second question on the insight,
Yes.
I don't understand that question.
Well-
What insight does she gain?
Yeah, so insight is a new idea, a life-changing idea possibly, right? So what I want you to think about is, all right, she changes. She's one way at the beginning and she's another way at the very end of the story, okay? What idea does she get as a result of that process, right? You could argue that the idea comes after the change, okay? Or you could argue, wait a minute, it's a result, like that change happens because she has that idea somewhere along the midway, okay? That's up to you to see, okay? What's more important though is that she gets this new idea that causes her to reevaluate what she does, the way she sees herself, the way she sees her community, okay? So does that answer it a little bit more? Think of insight as new idea, okay? Got to be different than what she had at the beginning, okay? All right. Yes, Stephanie.
For the conclusion part, am I supposed to talk about how I think her mindset is after she's done with the book, or how?
Yeah, so certainly we'll talk about how to write a conclusion next week after you guys write your rough draft. The conclusion I want you all to know is the least important part of the paper in my book, okay? You all need it. It counts for 5% of your grade. And let's see, how many points is that? If it's 100-point paper and something counts for 5% of your grade, that means it counts for 5 points, okay? So that paragraph is worth 5 points. You need to have it. But if you get an A on the conclusion versus getting a C on the conclusion, an A would be 4.5 and a C would be 3.5. It's a 1 point difference, okay, between those. So yes, you will need a conclusion, Stephanie. Don't worry about writing the most amazing conclusion ever, okay? What I'm asking for you to do in the conclusion is to tell me, what do you think happens as a result of this new mindset that she has by the end of the book, okay? So she gets a new mindset by the end, right? I want you to finish writing the story, right? Imagine, what if it continued, you know, like another chapter or two, all right? You do not need to write it long, just do it in 1 sentence, okay? You can have a 1 sentence or a 2 sentence prediction, okay? But we will talk about predictions next week, all right? And I guess the message I want to make for this week is, don't worry too much about writing the conclusion just yet, okay? Angel?
So there's no word count, it just has to be the length of 2 pages.
The 4 pages is based on the word count. I don't give you guys word counts because they're inconsistent. You're using like Word docs, someone else is using Google Docs, you turn it in to turnitin.com and they're gonna have a different word count, all 3, okay? So I just tell you guys pages. Now, that's where MLA format comes in and makes everything the same. Times New Roman, 12-point font, 1-inch margins, okay? Top to bottom. When I say 4 pages, I don't mean a sentence on the 4th page, okay? I mean all the way down to the bottom, okay? That's your 4 pages. So the last tip that I'll provide, and Stephanie, I'm gonna come back to you, I wanna make sure I answered your question. The last tip I'll say, you know, this is a process paper. You are examining how she changes. So I want you to think in terms of steps or stages, okay? That's why reading the whole book's important. But even if you haven't read the whole book, go based on what you have read, what you have seen, okay? And try to think of, what are the different Esperanzas that we get? What are the different stages of her growth to this new idea that we get, okay? If you can only track what you've read so far, that's fine. That's still something, okay? Look for changes in her, all right? See if there's something there. But what I would suggest is that you come up with at least 4 claims about the different stages she's in, all right? 4 or 5. If you do 3, you're not going to meet the page minimum, okay? At this stage of our class, it's unlikely if you only do 3 that you're going to get to the 4 full pages, okay? So I would say come up with 4 or 5 stages of development for Esperanza, okay? That'll put you in a good spot. Stephanie, did I reduce any fears about the conclusion?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so don't sweat the conclusion too much. All you got to do is make a prediction. That prediction can be, you know, 1 sentence or 2. Okay. All right, everyone. I'm going to have to end class for there today. Of course, I want you to keep being critical of this prompt. Keep thinking, do you know what to do? If you don't, there's something unclear, email me, okay? And if it's a real problem, then we can set up a Zoom meeting, all right? That's where we will end
Professor?
today. Yes, go ahead,
I
Dyra.
have a question. At the bottom, it says format the paper in MLA style with the works cited page. So for the
Yes.
works cited page, would we just need to cite the page numbers for the quotes, or?
So we can talk about MLA formatting more specifically next week. You know, the MLA handbook is there. but basically, page numbers come in parentheses after a quote, okay? You do not put page numbers in parentheses on the works cited page. All right, so when you're telling me Esperanza said this, after you quote it, you open your parentheses, you put the page number in, okay? The works cited is where you give me publication information for this book. Who's the author? What's the title? When was it published? Who's the publishing house? What's the publishing location? Okay, that's what goes in the works cited. So that way I know what version of this book you were using. Okay? Dara, does that help?
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Hey, I'm glad you brought that up about the quote. Just quick question. The parentheses and the page numbers after the period or before the period?
Yeah, so thank you. The period should go after the parentheses, okay? Because sometimes you'll be quoting a character who's asking a question, right? So then it would go question mark, end quote, parentheses, page number, close parentheses, period, okay? You aren't asking a question, you are reporting that this character asked a question, right? So always have your punctuation after the parenthetical citation, okay? If you look at the example of the mini essay I posted last week, okay, you'll see how it should be done, all right? I can post more examples too, okay? Alejandro, is that good?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the modules. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, everyone, I've got to head out for right now. Thank you all. Email me if you have any questions, okay? All right, bye-bye.
Bye, Professor.
Take care.
Hi, Professor.